December 7th, 1941, 7:48 a.m. Naval Air Forces of the Empire of Japan commenced their attack on U.S. bases at Pearl Harbor, leaving in their wake over a dozen ships sunk or damaged and 2,400 people killed. Americans awoke that day to find their nation at war, in a struggle that would test the resolve of every man and woman across the country. That afternoon, Bob Feller, already one of Major League Baseball's top pitchers, was driving from his home in Iowa to Chicago to sign a new contract with the Cleveland Indians. When a bulletin came across the radio announcing the attack on Pearl Harbor, Feller knew exactly what his next move would be. The next morning, he walked into a recruiting station in Chicago to enlist in the United States Navy. A four-time All-Star with a six-figure salary, Feller traded in his Indians uniform for that of a chief petty officer who earned $80 a month and all the chow he could eat. Major League Baseball was in a golden era in 1941. Joltin' Joe DiMaggio had his record 56-game hitting streak. Ted Williams became the last man to bat over 400. Bob Feller won 25 games, and the Yankees beat the Bums from Brooklyn to win the World Series. Before long, DiMaggio, Williams, and many other stars from the game followed Feller's lead and entered the military. Many of baseball's then and future stars found themselves involved in some of the pivotal episodes of World War II. Yogi Berra served in the Navy at D-Day. Warren Spahn was a combat engineer who survived the collapse of the bridge at Remagen, while Bob Feller saw action aboard the USS Alabama in both the Atlantic and Pacific theaters. Monty Irvin, a star in the Negro Leagues who after the war would go on to play for the New York Giants and Chicago Cubs, joined the Army Engineers, serving in France and Germany. Jerry Coleman would win 4 World Series rings as the second baseman for the Yankees, but during World War II, he was a pilot in the Marine Corps, flying 57 combat missions in the Pacific Theater and earning the Distinguished Flying Cross. Coleman flew another 63 missions in Korea and retired with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the Marine Corps Reserve. A future Hall of Fame slugger for the Pirates, Ralph Kiner served in the Naval Air Corps during World War II, piloting a plane in the Pacific on missions to locate Japanese submarines. Joe Anders was taught to play baseball by shoeless Joe Jackson and was offered a contract by the Yankees in 1942. Instead, he joined the Army, serving for 4 years and fighting in the South Pacific. Mickey Vernon, the beloved first baseman of the Washington Senators for much of a career that spanned 20 years, joined the Navy. He was sent overseas running sports leagues for his fellow service members in the Pacific. Following the Allies' victory in World War II, many players were able to return to baseball, resuming careers put on hold. Many of baseball's stars came back better than ever. For some, the return to the game was not as easy. Lou Brissy, a bright young prospect before the war, was severely wounded while serving with the 88th Infantry Division in Italy. His left shin bone was shattered into 30 pieces, while his left ankle and right foot were broken when he was hit by an artillery shell. The wound was serious enough for his left leg to be amputated, but somehow he managed to convince the doctors to instead put him in an evacuation hospital. 23 operations, 3 years, and countless hours of rehabilitation later, Brissy made his debut with the Philadelphia Athletics, realizing his dream and making an improbable comeback. While Lou Brissy realized his dreams, others were much less fortunate. Star shortstop Cecil Travis' feet were frozen in the siege of Bastogne, never allowing him to return to form. Elmer Gedeon, who played briefly for the Senators, was killed in France in 1944, while Harry O'Neill died on Iwo Jima in March 1945. Also killed on Iwo Jima was Jimmy Trimble, an outstanding pitching prospect who, like thousands of other young Americans, would never have the opportunity to make his dreams come true. The Major League Baseball players who put their careers and lives on hold to fight in World War II are emblematic of a generation of Americans who put duty and service to their country above all else. All Americans, from sports heroes like Bob Feller and Hollywood actors like Jimmy Stewart to everyday men and women across the country, felt an obligation to do their part in combating the twin evils of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan.
The national pastime gets on the Bond wagon. A glittering diamond festival is put on by the major leagues. $800 million is the contribution of baseball fans to the Bond drive.
For their devotion to duty and sacrifice and their willingness to put country first, despite their potential for fame and glory on the field,